Welcome to MFA. Today's session, we look at communication in football. Yeah. So, what exactly is communication, and how do we effectively communicate in football? So, welcome to this morning's live stream. So, for every footballer, whether it's a player, whether it's a coach, it's a manager, or even the owner of the football club, we all need to communicate with each other. Not only with each other, we also need to communicate with the public. We need to communicate with fans. We need to communicate with the media. All right. So let's jump into it. Let's jump into today's objectives. One, to define communication, and to be able to define it as it relates to the game, football. One. Two, to identify different types of communication that we see in sports. So there are different types of communication, different styles as well. Can we identify these different styles? Can we identify the different types of communication that exist? And mainly so as it relates to sports, very importantly. Another objective is to determine how best to communicate in football. So once we have determined the different styles and the different types, now can we determine how best to communicate in football? All right, very, very important. Last but not least is to explain why both verbal and non-verbal communication are important, and very, very important in football. It's not every time that you want to shout verbally, giving away your position, giving away that moment of surprise. There are non-verbal ways to communicate. Non-verbal ways to communicate that will allow for the message, the information that you want your teammates and players to get across. All right. So how do you as a player, a coach, a manager, how do you improve your communication skills? That's what MFA is about. At least one aspect to MFA. We enable players, coaches, managers, and even owners to improve their communication skills in relaying what it is that is necessary to their players, coaches, managers, the media, the public, the fans, etc. So what we see, guys, is that players communicate with players. Players communicate with managers, with the coaches, with the agents, very important. And players communicate with the media. These are all different ways in which a player will communicate as a professional footballer. Very, very important. The clubs themselves, so it could be the manager or the coach, have got to communicate with the players. Coaches have to communicate with other coaches, have to communicate with the fans, communicate with the media. Coaches have to communicate with the owners, etc. So there's a whole synergy of communication taking place within the football arena. The club owners, very importantly, who naturally will be at a high level in terms of their communication skills, will have mastered a few of these aspects as it relates to communicating, because they are the ones who actually own the club. So, in other words, knowing how to communicate with the personnel that will take the club forward is vital. Absolutely vital. No two ways about it. All right. So, one, communication is most vital. Two, communication is essential in every aspect of the game. And three, it is utmost important that everyone involved in football seek to improve their communication skills. Because the truth is, the heights we reach in the game, this one factor, communication, will be pivotal, will be central into ascending to the heights in this particular game or in any field for that matter. Communication is most important. So, what is communication? How would we define communication? In fact, we see it defined as uh, the imparting or exchanging of information. So, whether it is by speaking, whether it is by writing, by movement of the body language, it could be just the eyes or just turn and look in that direction so they know. Yes, so the act of giving, the act of receiving, essentially the act of sharing information. Absolutely most important and most vital for every member involved in football. So essentially, who is a good communicator? How do we determine who is a good communicator? Now, that someone will be one who listens carefully. They listen carefully. Uh, they will speak clearly as well. They will speak clearly. And in fact, the fact that I am actually doing this particular episode on communication, already individuals would have started to amass in their minds ideas about how well I'm actually communicating, if I'm communicating well at all, which which is important because the message I'm looking to get across is that we must all seek to improve our communication skills. So put a comment somewhere as to how effectively am I communicating this to you. Yes, very, very important. Okay, so good communicators also tend to write clearly. So the different ways in which we exchange information, um, good communicators tend to do them well, to listen carefully, listen, speak, speak clearly. It is heard, it is understood, it is clear. Yes, and also to write clearly. A lot of the information that we will give and receive will be in the form of print. So it is important that we have all these parameters very, very clear. It only makes for effective communication. And at the highest level in the game, it is naturally expected that you will have the better communicators in the game at the highest level in the game. All right. So let us jump into a little more on communication. So, in other words, what are the different styles of communication that we see? Time is now 11:11. What are the different styles of communication that we see? Now, according to our research, we have four main types, or rather, let's say styles. Four main styles of communicating. One is passive, two, aggressive, three, passive aggressive, and four, assertive. Now, think about it for a few seconds. With respect to playing the game of football, which of these styles of communicating do you think will be most effective? Passive, aggressive, passive aggressive, or assertive? Do you think that there is one style that is necessary? Do you think that a combination could be useful? Think about your current attitude, your current behavior. How do you currently communicate? When we go through what they are, you will understand them better. But think about it just for now, based on what you think they are. Passive communication. Do you communicate passively as a footballer or as a manager? Do you communicate aggressively as a player, as a coach, a manager, or an owner, or even as a fan? Do you communicate aggressively? Are you more passive aggressive in the way in which you communicate? You decide, assess your own self. Or are you an assertive communicator? You determine what you are at present based on your own understanding of what these styles are and what you think they are. You make a decision based on that. Now, okay, you have made a decision. Let's go into let's jump into it. Yeah. So what is passive communication? That passive communication style. What is that passive communication style? Now, let's go to it. Now, individuals who use the passive communication style often act indifferently, yielding to others. Now, would that make it in football, in sport, yielding to others? Think about it. Now, passive communicators usually fail to express their feelings or needs, allowing others to express themselves. Now, frequently, a passive communicator tend to be misunderstood. And while they are being misunderstood, the individual normally develops anger, resentment within their own self because of the misunderstanding, because they are communicating passively, allowing others to dictate even how they feel. Yep. So passive communicators, there won't be any eye contact normally. Well, in some cases there might be, but you will see the shying away from making proper eye contact. The body language, body posture will be poor naturally, and you will see. you will see the words spoken tend to be what I call frail. Um, could you put that over there? So, okay, you know what? Even just trying to communicate passively, I have to really make an effort in doing it. But there are circumstances where passive communication is quite effective. For example, if there is a conflict that, listen, a conflict in the game that could mash up the game, end the game, blah blah blah, etc. Is a conflict is such an occurrence that we might want to use a passive form of communication um, to, to to get a particular result, to step away from the aggression, to step away from the anger, the frustration. We can use passive communication in that particular scenario to diffuse a situation that could escalate into violence. All right, that is where a passive form of communication is effective. But as a footballer playing the game against opponents who are looking to dominate you, do you think communicating passively is going to help you to achieve your objectives in football? Think about it, and think about how we communicate and communicating passively. All right. Next on the agenda is the other form of style of communication, which is aggressive. Now, what do we mean by aggressive? Yes. Now, how can we express an aggressive form of communication? Okay, let's go. Now, the aggressive communication style is emphasized by speaking in a loud and demanding voice, maintaining an intense eye contact, and dominating or controlling others by blaming, intimidating, criticizing, all these, threatening, attacking. Um, all these are common traits of the aggressive communicator. Now, there is a difference between aggression, being aggressive, and being angry. There is a difference. The aggressive communicator often issues commands, might ask questions rudely, and sometimes fail to listen to others. In other words, your typical footballer. Yeah, the typical footballer. Yes, you're confident in self. You communicate in a tone. Others know that. Listen, this is it. That's it. It's not a question. I've not asked a question. I've given a command, not a question. Yeah, I'm putting it over there. That ball is going over there. I'm not asking you if it'll go over there, sir. May I put it over there, sir? All right. So in the game itself, would it be better to be communicating in an aggressive manner rather than to be communicating in a passive manner? You determine which is best for you. All right. So remember there's a difference between aggression and anger. And anger. For sport, for sport, aggression is welcomed. Aggression is, in essence, is like a necessity in sport. Aggression. If you don't have that aggressive nature in you, it's hardly likely that you will reach the top. Well, come on. Hardly likely. In fact, all those who have ascended to the heights have displayed this characteristic, that aggressive way of communicating. So imagine, imagine playing against, all right, playing against, let's say Messi, or even the President Ronaldo, and you're like, oh, okay, take the ball, go ahead, go ahead, they can go and score. I don't think you would even be on the pitch, to be honest, if that's your nature. You ain't gonna be on that pitch with that quality. Yeah, and with that quality, and you having that form of communicating. No, it's not simply going to, you're not going to even make it into the professional arena to be able to be on the same pitch with this type and kind. And football is not a raffle. It is not a raffle. Yes, and we can see clearly who are able to communicate effectively. It is clear. It is not something that can be hidden. Yes, it cannot be hidden. Once that game starts, we know who are the better communicators even before the game starts. So, nowhere to hide on this pitch. So that's the aggressive form of communication, which ideally suits the game. All right, it is not that we even need to get loud and we might get loud, but we don't need to get loud. We can be aggressive. Yeah, and there's going to be, of course, you can once it's aggressive, there's a behind it. Yeah, so be mindful of the nature of the way in which you communicate. The next style is what is called passive aggressive. Yes, passive aggressive. Now, this, you will see this one. Will this be useful, or will it be not useful? Now, passive aggressive communication style, it appears passive on the surface. It appears passive on the surface, but within, one may feel powerless or stuck. And therefore, there's a buildup of resentment that leads one to act in a subtle, indirect, and a kind of secretive way. Yeah, so that's the passive aggressive communicator. You will tend to mutter to oneself rather than confront a person or an issue. All right, very, very important. Usually there is difficulty acknowledging anger. Yeah, and what you will see usually are facial expressions that don't correlate with how they feel. Yep, and even will deny that there is a problem. Now, as far as we're concerned, it is not to dwell on the problem, but the problem must be identified. And then we focus on the solution. But the problem must be identified. The passive aggressive communicators tend to floss over the problem. They floss over the problem. So there is a pretense that something does not um, exist. Things are fine. Things are fine with me when they are actually dying inside. Yes, things may not be fine with me, and I might not have to express it openly, but admitting that thing, crucial. Dealing with it, also utmostly crucial. All right. So, very important, we see that this form of communication, it really has no place in a team sport, where we have to communicate with each other. We have to work with each other for the good of the group. So, whatever problems there might be, it is important that that is expressed and not flossed over by communicating passively, aggressively, because one only builds up resentment within oneself. Yeah, and that over time will eat away at the players, at the managers. And how many players, how many managers have we seen that have um, been either transferred or sacked because they have lost that ability to communicate with the dressing room, just the ability to communicate with the owner, or with the backroom staff. Too many times we have seen this occur in the game. And in some scenarios, individuals now start to communicate passive aggressively, um, not expressing exactly what is, getting more frustrated, getting more angry, being more resentful. And you see it in the way that the individuals communicate. All right. So the passive aggressive form of communication, wow, usually results in something other than what is required for the progress of the environment. All right. Now, the last form that we are going to just examine is that of the assertive communicator. So, communicating assertively. Yes. Now, could this be the most effective form of communication, or is it the least effective form of communication? We have seen the passive, we have seen the aggressive, we have seen the passive aggressive, and now we're at the fourth, which is assertive. Uh, what does it mean to be an assertive communicator? What does it mean to communicate assertively? Yeah, what does it mean? Now, very, very important. The assertive communicator has an open style that is also not overbearing. So, as I said earlier, this particular presentation, you will be able to determine the actual communication style that I am actually using, presenting this particular session on communication in football. Can we express our own needs? Can we express our own desires, our own ideas, our own feelings? While, of course, considering the feelings and the effect that it will have on others. Once we're able to do these, express our own needs, our own desires, etc., then we are now starting to communicate assertively. Okay, so assertive communication essentially aims at, we say, both sides to win in a situation. In other words, we're balancing one right with the right of the other. So while being assertive, which is be dominant, be dominant. At the same time, be mindful that you're not dominating someone else. What do we mean by that? Uh, it's not a one-way street communicating. It's not a one-way street. Yes. So the way in which we communicate assertively while we express ourselves, we must be mindful of the other person as well. All right. Considering that they have needs. Just like we are expressing our needs, they have needs. They have feelings. Just like we are expressing our feelings, they have feelings. So we must consider both sides um, to win in a situation, not just one side. All right, very, very important. So the assertive style of communicating is the style that we see most dominant in football, and the style that we see mostly at the top, at the highest level. Um, in fact, what we find is that the assertive player, the player who also is very confident in one's own ability, one's own direction, one's own purpose. Um, we find these players, you will hear people saying, boy, they're so arrogant. I laugh. Why do I laugh? Um, Show me the person who says that, and I'll tell you their style. I'll tell you their style instantly, just by observation. Yeah, yeah. So very important. We see bordering on arrogance. Borders on arrogance is the level of, we say, confidence which is needed in a professional football player. Now, the way in which each player communicates almost automatically tells the level that player will rise to. Get it without question. If that person is a passive communicator, both on and off the field, then come on, we know where they're going to be local. They're going to be local, and they're going to be having a kickabout. Yep, someone who is a bit passive on the field but aggressive off it, they're going to be off it. They're going to be off it, but they just don't have what it takes for the game, and their aggressive nature off the field. Um, they might try to bring it on the field. It doesn't work, so end up in conflict, and so there that goes. Yeah. Now the player on the field that communicates assertively, on the field. And you can see, just put the player on the pitch, and it's like a transformation. Yeah, because there are those who in their real life, they're quite passive in communicating with others, quite passive. But just put them on the field, put them on that field. It's like, oh, a transformation take place. These ones will will excel once they're in the right environment. Just take a Messi, take a Messi for example. Yeah, it's a different compared to a Cristiano Ronaldo off the field. A two different character. Ronaldo, Cristiano from little more assertive in the way in which he goes he goes about off the field. Leo is more a bit passive off the field. But put both of those on the field. Messi, you'll see the transformation from a passive communicator off the field to a very assertive communicator on the field. So much so to the point where um, there's a little undertone of aggression in the way in which he communicates. No, but understood. Um, Cristiano has been assertive from get go. Off the field, assertive character. On the field, even more so, turn it up. All right. So we see the style of communication that suits the football player. All right. So we have discussed the four styles of communicating, and very importantly, for you to determine what style are you. What style are you? Yes. What style best suit the game? That's the next most important thing for you to determine what style actually suit the game. All right. And therefore, for you to adopt this style as your own. It comes with time. It comes with time and practice. And naturally, anything that we're going to excel at in this life will require um, some effort on our part. All right, very, very important. Now, we have come across the fact that there are different types of communication. So I've gone through some styles, the four main styles of communication. We want to now touch on the two main types. The two main types. That is verbal and non-verbal communication. All right. Now, verbal communication is what we are doing actually now. Speaking, verbal speaking. Yeah. It could be in a written form as well. Verbal communication, verbal speaking. You can hear, you can hear. Now, the written form will not work on the field. The verbal form does work. And of course, the non-verbal forms of communication. So all these different uh, types of gestures, facial expressions, you understand? Making eye contact, you understand? Using the eyes to show direction. All these are cues. The hand pushes to R. All these are ways in which the footballer will learn and develop oneself to communicate. Very, very important. If, as a footballer, you are relying solely on somebody to call you, to say your name, then go and have a kickabout around the block. Go outside, have a kickabout round the block. That's it. You don't need, you don't even need to come to MFA, to be honest. MFA is for those who say, listen, I don't want the kickabout thingy. I want something special out of this because I love this thing. So I'm not settling for mediocrity. Do you understand? Yeah. But once it is that your aim is to be the best version of yourself, this is where MFA comes in to assist you in improving your ability to communicate. Just as simple as that. All right. So, all these different non verbal forms of communication, we must be examining these in the football industry. We must be examining these. As players, you must be developing these with your teammates. You must. If it is that you're in a team as a player, yeah, and you have not worked out one form of non-verbal communication with every player that you play with, you are wasting your time. You're wasting your time. Yes? And you're denying yourself the ability to grow and to be something special. Yes? If every game you wondering, I wonder what him just do a while ago. Or I wonder what him mean when him do that. You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. You must be with your players, with your teammates. You're with them day in, day out. You must work out the non-verbal strategies. In fact, as a coach, I say the team must have a code book. The team must have a code book so that when them see me go so, when they see me go so, them know say, yo, coach say, shoot from outside. Shoot from outside. And that the coach mean, a gun finger. Shoot from outside. Don't wait for go in at the box. We are shoot from outside now. So knock it, shoot from outside. That the coach says, stop try penetrate in behind them once we get to the 18. We are shoot from outside. Yeah? Good. And we can't even give them reasons why. So I go so, and then say I go so, them know say, the keeper weak. But on which side? If they say me go so, they know say in weak, I go to that side. But if they say me go so with this and I go so, they know say in weak, I go to that side. So I come on, I go so, them know say shoot from outside, in weak, I go to that side. Needn't stand. Me not have to say nothing. The opponents not have a clue what just transpired. All them know say shot a rain like bullet from round the box. That's all them I see. keeper does know say mafia go to that side non-stop now. Weaker side. So communication is quite effective in football. In fact, it is utmost necessary. And as we approach the end of this half, it is important that as players, as coaches, as managers, as owners, that we consider effective ways to communicate in the beautiful game. It is true that our ability to communicate will determine the heights we reach, and therefore it is of utmost importance that those who seek the highest and the best version of themselves, that you work and improve your ability to communicate. Thanks for tuning in to MFA. It is very important that as we move forward, we understand that it is up to us. It is up to us to determine the heights that we want to reach. And communication is a vital component in determining the heights we reach in this beautiful game. Coach Howard from MFA saying, it's been a pleasure. And as usual, do take care. And remember, 6 to 6 is our motto. From 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening. Practice, practice, practice.